Hi, my name is Mrs. Burns. I have the pleasure of being your student's forensics instructor this school year, and I've only had a few classes with them so far, but they've already shown to be so open-minded and so ready to take on whatever the school year brings. And I know that it's going to bring some times of transition, but I also know that we have such a connected community, a great set of students, and a very dedicated staff. And together we're all working to make sure that we make this year as great as it can. Before I get into about my class, I just wanted to make you aware of my email. Please feel free to email me if you have any questions. I've also told your students to CC you on any of the emails that they send to me, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So a little bit just about my journey into becoming a teacher. I got my Bachelor's of Science from UCSD. I majored in biology with an emphasis on animal behavior, evolution, and ecology. So that led to me doing some research in Costa Rica. I worked hands-on with sloths, doing research and rehabilitation. And then coming back to San Diego, I spent some time with seals and sea lions, also doing research and rehabilitation. And during both of these programs, I was also extremely active in creating a citizen science program, which essentially means connecting the citizens, the community, to the science that myself and my research group was conducting, and connecting them to all of the different things that we were finding out, all of our discoveries, connecting them to just our science. And that really conveyed to me the importance of connecting the community with science, and that kind of led to me figuring out what the best way to be to accomplish that widespread, and that is teaching. So I attended the University of San Diego. I have my master's now in curriculum and education, and I'm super excited to be using all of my experience today in the classroom with your students. So my classroom culture is really centered around a growth mindset. For me, a growth mindset is one of the most important skills that I can give to my students. A growth mindset, if you're not aware, is just being able to accept the fact that failure is going to happen, and that's okay, because it's just another step towards success. And so creating that positive environment in which students are encouraged to make a mistake and then keep going to find room for growth and improvement is the number one thing that I try to facilitate in my classroom. And in doing so, I also want the students to focus more so on mastery than on their actual percentage grade. Because if you focus on mastering a content, understanding the subject, and really learning how to connect it, that actually allows for then the transition of having better grades, but it's the focus that matters. And so conveying to students this focus on doing their best and really working not just to get a good grade, but working to understand and connect with the material. And finally, I asked the students one of the ways that I could respect them, because respect is very important, especially at this school, that I wanted to make sure that it was a two-way street. And one of the ways that they made clear to me I could respect them was being respectful of their time. They do have extracurriculars, other classes going on, and a lot of other work to do. And so they asked to not have that much homework. And I know that's a pretty common question, but research actually shows that homework doesn't really serve much effect after a certain point. It really only serves to add stress to the students. So we came up with our respect agreement, and on my end, I'm holding up that respect agreement by not assigning unnecessary homework if we do have homework as an extension of what we do in the class. But on the other hand, if I'm not going to be assigning homework, then I would very much appreciate my students showing up and being present in the class to get the most out of the time that they do have with me. So in terms of what we're going over in class, for semester 1, we're going over observation skills, crime scene investigation, handwriting analysis, ballistics, forensic anthropology, and fingerprinting. Semester 2, fibers and textiles, hair analysis, DNA, blood and splatter, toxicology, and forensic psychology. With all of these classes, we have assignments that involve labs and different hands-on case studies, so a lot of really engaging lessons. And with all those lessons, there are some policies in place that you might like to know about. In terms of resubmissions, to encourage that growth mindset, I do allow my students to resubmit. There's 2 stipulations. Before the deadline, they can resubmit as many times as they like. I'll provide feedback, and they can make those changes accordingly. After the deadline, though, to make sure that I'm available for other students, they can only submit one more time. And so once again, before the deadline, as many resubmissions after the deadline, one resubmission, and I will give them feedback so that they can try and improve their score as they see fit. If a student is absent, all of the information they need is on Schoology. If for some reason it's not, then they are welcome to reach out to me, and I can try and clarify and get them back up to speed. In terms of test retakes, students are allowed one retake per test, and that retake score is reduced by 10%. Finally, with late work, students are allowed to submit late work, but for every day that it is late, I will be reducing 10% from their final grade. And after 5 days have passed, then the max score students can get is 50%. That ends at the end of the quarter. And as you might have seen while going over the material, there is some sensitive material in this class. It's just the nature of forensics, so we will be going over content such as murder, rape, drug use, violence, gun use, suicide, other sensitive topics. So if your student seems uncomfortable with these topics, then I would recommend perhaps having a conversation about whether or not transferring it to a different class would be helpful. If you have any other questions, once again, please feel free to email me. I look forward to spending more time with you and your student over the course of the school year. Roll on.